Matthew, the 20th chapter. We're going to look at verses 20 through 23. Then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her sons, worshiping him and desiring a certain thing of him. And he said unto her, What wilt thou? She said unto him, Grant that these my two sons may sit the one on the right and the other on the left in thy kingdom. Verse 22 read.
But Jesus answered and said, Ye know not what ye ask. Are ye able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, and to be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?
They said unto him, We are able. And verse 23, and he said unto them, Ye shall drink indeed of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared. I want in.
All right.
Got it? Everybody, just one more time for me.
I want in.
That's a move from God.
All right.
It's a prophetic declaration that we have to make when we want access and entry into the things of God.
Yeah.
We can't be denied and we can't be held back. We can't be held back by rejection or what somebody says. Because the word of the Lord declares that you're in. Now, I want in. It means, no, I don't want in the clique.
Yes. Amen.
I don't want in the group.
Wow.
I don't want in the posse. And I don't want to be in no mess. And I certainly do not want to be in sin.
All right. All right. Hallelujah.
But I want his presence. To be right in his presence.
Yes. Yes.
Where there is fullness of joy and righteousness forevermore. He gets their strength and momentum from a loud mouth and preying on people who they deem as weak and defenseless.
Wow.
Bullies need crowds to agree with them and back up their taunts. It is a relentless, taunting spirit. The old demons don't die easily. They reinvent themselves with the relentless fortitude to kill and steal and destroy. But Jesus said to his disciple, I send you forth as lambs among wolves. We will not be devoured. Tell your neighbor, I want in the safety ark of God. The scripture today tells a very interesting story regarding the disciples James and John, who wanted a position exclusively for themselves.
Yes.
And this is how it unfolds. The mother of James and John came to Jesus with her two sons, and if you notice her position, she was worshiping him.
All right.
The only issue is that her worship had ulterior motives and a selfish desire. So she conjured up and masqueraded worship for a need. We have to be cautious in these days of praise and worship, that we don't worship worship.
All right.
And that we don't worship praise. We have to guard our hearts against self-worship and worshiping things and worshiping other people. Yes, we are to admire and respect them, but when we talk about them more than God, then our hearts become suspect. God cautions us not to worship our problems, and he cautions us not to worship our past, and yea, even our past failures and our past successes. He cautions us not to worship our pain, for he is the healer of our pain. God requires worship from a pure heart that does not want anything but to adore him. I clearly understand when the songwriter said, I worship you because of who you are. I worship you because you're holy, and I worship you, God, just because of who you are. And I clearly understand when they say, if you never do another thing for me. I'm not coming with an agenda or a hidden motive. I just want to worship you.
Thank you, Lord.
Yes, we have needs and we have wants, and some of them are pressing us continuously, and they have a heavy burden on us, but not before we worship him. Worship has to precede every need. True worship comes from a heart open to revelation. When Jesus confronted the woman at the well about her lifestyle, he could see her heart for worship was tainted and darkened by sin, and her formal religion, which kept her bound and kept her deceived. Yes, she was even going to church and singing songs, but her heart was far from true worship. In other words, the physical motions were demonstrated, but the evidence of truth was unrealized. Jesus said, woman, believe me that the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship you know not what. We worship what we know, for salvation is of the Jews. God is a spirit, he told her, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Turn to your neighbor and say, I want in. I want into the worship. I want into the praise. I want my worship to be true and pure and holy unto the Lord. Not tainted by my needs, not tainted by my aggravations, not tainted by the things that I'm bothered by. But I can lay bare before him and say, Father, I worship you. I go up in praise unto you, for you are truly worthy. I want the mind and the heart of God, but I know the way to get there is what it takes in worship. You want to get into the presence of God because you want to know the will of God, and you want to know it with clarity, so that there is no misconceptions about who you are and who God is to you. You want to stand in awe of God and his excellent greatness, and bow before his majesty and all of his wonder. But this mother had a motive, another motive, and another heart. Jesus, discerning her desire, asked a question. And this is an amazing question that Jesus asked. He said, what will thou? What is it that you want? What is it that you desire? It's such an open question. She saw him as the one who had the authority, and she was willing to go right to the source. She said, grant that these, my two sons, one would sit on the right and one would sit on the left in thy kingdom. Apparently there is something inviting and attractive about the kingdom to this mother. She didn't ask him about a church, but she said about the kingdom.
All right.
If you would grant that to my sons. Perhaps she had heard Jesus say his disciples would be seated on thrones. And with this typical motherly pride, felt her sons deserved the best locations. Jesus did not correct her as a fact of his coming kingdom. His only question was addressed to the sons, who apparently had urged their mother to make the request. I'm almost done. Look at your neighbor and say, I want in. I want in. He asked them, he said, if you are able to drink of the cup, and Pastor said this earlier, that I shall drink of and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. Jesus was speaking of his coming trials and death, and as he would be betrayed and die on the cross. And they both replied quickly, we are able.
Oh, Jesus.
A quick response to a loaded, heavy question.
Yes.
The wonderful prophetic voice of Sister Monica Gadigan reminds us often in our Sunday school class, be careful what you ask for.
Yes.
Be careful to count the full cost. Not the glory, not the glamour, not the glitz. Everyone likes prophetic utterances. Everyone likes prophetic revelations. And everyone likes impartations. But can you count the sacrifice of the time and years it may take to see the manifestation come to pass?
Yes.
Do we have the capacity to withstand the pressure of loss and betrayal? Can you push past the human limitations of lack of motivation and just being frustrated? Can you push past tiredness and anxiety and those things that will derail us? Can we take the rebuke and correction in the house of God and still count it as part of worship? In other words, can God trust you? The old hymn says, it's so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, just to rest upon his promise, just to know, thus saith the Lord. But can he trust you with trouble, with heartache, knowing that this is not the end result? The book of Revelation says he'll wipe every tear from our eyes. The ones we shed publicly and the ones that we shed privately, that we have learned to internalize. God will capture your tears as part of your worship. He knows a broken and a contrite heart before him, and we have to say, I want in. God's message is today that we pursue him with all diligence.